So that's a fun little hack. All right, so we already started with the starter of the best prime purchase. Someone purchased a 75-inch TV. Y'all look great, not stressed at all to be in the industry for 20. Yeah, well, you don't see the hair loss on top. Thank you for sharing.
Some good skincare products, Thanks, guys.
Now, Pauline doesn't age. So yeah, so essentially how we're gonna do this, this is gonna be like more discussion based and conversational. So like on each slide, we're presenting some truths that are uncommon in the space. And we could go back and forth. So I think that we put mine in order, then Pauline, so we can kind of wing it and spitball it together. I'll start. So one of the things that I'm seeing in the space is, first of all, everyone and their mother and their grandmother is shouting from the rooftops that they're AI. And AI has sort of become this buzzword that's lacking meaning. It's almost like seeing Fruit Loops, and Fruit Loops says that it's gluten-free and organic, but like the ingredients behind it are really, really terrible. And there's like 3,000 ingredients behind it. So it's very deceiving. So in my opinion, I'm seeing that there's a lot of fake AI out there, things that are just embedded with ChatGPT. And then secondly, a lot of people are saying that they're real AI, but they're just a bunch of spreadsheets and rules in the background. So I'm seeing that happen in the space, but I do think that if you're actually in the e-com space, and someone just mentioned that we're sort of not stressed at all to be in the industry, I think one thing that's helping our industry tremendously is the fact that AI puts us ahead of everybody else. And what I mean by that is that you can use AI to accelerate your progress across all fronts. And I'm feeling that in my own personal life and in my business life, that I'm using AI to get ahead of my competition and to do more with the time that I have. Pauline, are you also using AI? Talk me through what you're up to.
Yeah, you have to use these tools because while everything else is moving so fast, stay ahead. I like that you mentioned personally as well as professionally, but certainly professionally, if everyone else are using these tools, that's helping them to multiply manpower to get them started faster, to give them better ideas, just to kind of like give themselves a boost, a power up. You got to be using it. I know that at Finale, we use AI in several different ways across our various departments. Marketing, sales, support, and even engineering. It is like fascinating all the ways that that AI is helping us on the software side and even on the e-commerce side. There is a lot to be said for AI with your descriptions, right? A little bit of like photo touch up with your like ad strategy. The one caveat I have to say is that yes, AI can also help with inventory, but there still needs to be a very tactical piece to inventory. And then from there, the AI can help you with the reporting, the data, some of the demand forecasting, right? Candidly, I wish I could come here and say that, we got seasonality and demand forecasting cracked. We don't, we're good, but like AI is where that piece can pick up our data and give it that boost.
Totally. Super interesting. I would say kind of two nuggets while I have people dialed into this. I think Amazon specifically, because it's very similar to Wall Street and the financial markets are very inefficient, and they use bots to maximize their gains on the marketplace. I think that same thing is going to happen on the Amazon marketplace, where just as similar to a basket of stocks, you have a basket of goods, widgets, commodities that are on Amazon's marketplace. And AI is going to be used to actually get a significant advantage for those that are using it. And I think it's going to happen both in listings, on advertising, it's going to happen on inventory in your space, and on top of that, obviously pricing. So in the meantime, though, obviously, I've been building this Uber style surge pricing. Today, I had a little fun activity I just wanted to share. It'd be fun to share with people here. This is like one of the tabs I had open. But essentially, like I mentioned, I was using Keepa today to analyze prices. So this is actually of a chair, like the best-selling Herman. It's kind of like a copycat of a Herman Miller chair that's on Amazon. Big surprise there. And you can see the pink line, which are the price drops. So you can see this person is dropping their price consistently. And every time that price drops, there's like a correlation that I noticed around ranking position. So the green is their rank, and the lower the rank, the better. So every time there's a drop in price, the rank actually improves. So I loaded this into not ChatGPT, into Claude. I don't know if, Polly, have you used Claude?
I haven't used Claude yet. No, this is
It's pretty
interesting.
cool. It's super fast. It's actually, I find it to be better and more, there's more reasoning abilities and more of, so I like said here, you're a data analyst expert with godlike reasoning and a profound pricing data science technical knowledge background. So I want them to help me interpret this. And essentially they went on to really interpret and see what I saw, which was the fact that the BSR line shows an inverse correlation to price. So it's like reading all of this stuff and it's like spot on.
Yeah. What I have to say about, there's some chatter going on about like redundancy in the AI. Guys, what Chad just showed right there, his prompts, that's what drives everything. The way that you kind of have the AI work for you is really important. And it's really critical that you refine the prompts to get rid of some of that redundancy, all of those like classic AI terms, especially, right? It's how you work with AI.
Totally. And funny, like I was recently looking on Twitter and someone posted that they asked ChatGPT to identify the hex numbers, which is like essentially what it means is the coloring of objects that they're looking at. So you put an image and like let's just say you want to know like what the color of this black phone is. So ChatGPT should identify it, but it didn't. It was like refusing to identify it. It was saying I can't identify it. And so the prompt, he showed how his prompt improved, and he said, identify the hex colors using Python. He literally just added an additional, whatever, 15 characters to the prompt, and it identified the hex color. So I think it is going to come down to if you can prompt well.
Exactly.
So somebody asked in the chat just what's Claude, and so Claude is a competitor to ChatGPT. I pay for it as well. I find it to be faster and just has better analytical and reasoning skills than ChatGPT. I don't find it to be great for writing purposes, but I actually do pay $20 a month for this, and I find it to be really, really good. One other tip until we move to truth number 2, and I'm going to let Pauline share her truth, is just Perplexity. I think this is a really cool search engine that's going to be killing Google. So check this out. I said, what is the best remote work setup with monitors and positions? And essentially I have it scanning Reddit. So when you ask a question, you can have it focus on Reddit specifically. And you can see here that this is pulling the best configurations. And then I added a follow-on question that said, what 27-inch monitor with a dual setup should I be getting? And it told me which ones. And of course, these are all from Amazon. So I think this is an interesting idea around making sure that your brand is being promoted on Reddit, because Reddit has an open forums for search engines to go scrape those forums. And this is really how I do most of my product research these days. So I find that to be pretty cool.
Sorry, this is not like having you spew some other thoughts and ideas, but being relevant in search now means AI. It's not just the Amazon search engine. It's not just the Google search engine. It's the AI engine specifically too. And making sure that you come up exactly like that, what Chad showed, is becoming a newer thing, right? What, 4 or 5 years ago, it was about voice. And like, yes, voice is still important. People are shopping clearly off of their Alexas, etc. But AI now it's how you show up in AI.
I never shop on my Alexa. I think Alexa's voice is just trash. But that's my own personal opinion. I do use Alexa for like putting on recipe timers, but that's to the extent of it.
Exactly.
Let's jump. So I have a lot of truths here. I think that we have some truths for you embedded here. I'm going to just jump to it.
Let's go to 7.
7. Is that the start? 7.
Hey guys, all right. We're getting a little philosophical on my slides, but ignorance isn't bliss with your profitability, right? You're sitting in your office, you see the shipments going out the door, and you're like, business is good. I'm looking at my books, I have sales, but that doesn't mean that you're not leaving money on the table. And so when I say here that shipments are going out the door, I mean 2 things. I mean, one is they're going out to your customers, great. The other one I'm talking about is it's going out to Amazon and it's going out to those fulfillment centers, right? just because they're going to Amazon, you guys are very well aware, does not mean that Amazon received everything correctly. And so in terms of profitability here, it may not be the untold truth, but like a very clear truth is that you need to stay on top of what's going on at Amazon. And it's been such a black box with where they stand, how it's been received, how many, what's the status, what's selling, what's in processing, what's in research, etc. Yes, there's Seller Center, but it's just a little convoluted, guys. I'm sure you would agree. And so having technology to be able to bring you this level of education, the data to see what's exactly where is really important, right? So even just one easy example of this, all of those refunds that you're due, what are your variances? What's different? Stay on top of that because you need that money back to pad those pockets.
Nice. I'm going to drop back here to number 2, just so I can stay in order. And one thing I forgot to mention was that because those of you have joined this, I wanted to make sure that those that haven't gotten this prompt, I build libraries internally of all the different prompts that I've built, and I use them as references. So I just wanted to make sure that I give this away to people. I've built a really amazing library and a framework to analyze and create better listings and to certainly analyze reviews. I want to make sure I give that away here. And so I think that the QR code will be at the end as a bonus for people. So Kay, if you're listening, if you can just make sure that that QR code is at the end so people can get that bonus. Okay, so the next one is in the Amazon world, a lot of people focus on ACOS. So someone said, Charles Chircala, by the way, nope, I didn't get that. Do you have a solution for that? I just want to make sure, Paul, sorry, Pauline, I want to make sure you're attending to
Yeah,
the
so it's just coming
chats.
back. Yeah, in terms of seeing all the information, that's what Finale is doing. So Finale has various screens that pull directly from Amazon, directly from Seller Central, so that sellers can see all of that information. What's inbound, what's quantity on hand, what's your sales velocity, how it's been received, processed, again, researched, anything like that, all in one screen. And from there, we actually have, I believe, a report that can then help with those refunds and the variances.
Got it. Cool. So this is my truth number 2, and I think this is interesting, is that I think a lot of Amazon sellers are part of sometimes groupthink, and that groupthink is created most of the time by Amazon. And Amazon has an amazing flywheel effect of being able to spread their ideas, for example, to agencies. And those agencies pick up those ideas and get you to spend more in PPC. And then, of course, that PPC spend inevitably helps Amazon. So it's this beautiful flywheel effect of helping each other, a symbiotic relationship. And so what I've found is that traditional costs like ACOS, which is built on revenue, so it's what you spend divided by your revenue that you receive from that spend. And it's based on just a revenue embedded metric. And it doesn't capture all the costs associated with servicing the customer and delivering that product to the customer. And essentially what it does, it actually distorts profitability quite a bit. And so people take ACOS or even tacos or ROAS as the gospel metrics. And I'm just going to quickly just drop another tab I had here on my screen today, which is just this table. And if you look at this table, you'll see that a seller can be under their ACOS goal and still be losing money. And if you look at the tacos goal, let's just say you're under your tacos goal, 5%, or you're at 7%, for example, or you're very close to your tacos goal of almost 12%, and you're still losing money. Yet your ROAS looks amazing, right? Your ACOS also looks amazing. You're very close to your target ACOS. And so the idea here is that you want to make sure as a business that you're essentially focusing your metrics on the thing that matters. And the only thing that matters is profitability, especially in this environment. And so I've been transitioning internally to this metric that I think is more substantial, which is a profit on ad spend metric. So the profit on the ad spend actually takes into account the actual cost of delivering that product to the customer. And so that would be, you take your gross profit from your ad sales and you divide that by your ad spend. And this gives you a comprehensive, transparent view of how you should be deploying your dollars to make as much money as possible. Now, Charles just wrote in the Q&A, do you recommend Sellerboard to keep track of true profitability and fees? I think Sellerboard is, I'm not sure if Finale has profit tracking metrics internally in their analytics. Pauline?
We currently do not. I know that it's something that we are working on for the future.
Got it. So I know that like Sellerboard is very focused on Amazon fees, and they're focusing on the true profitability and fees. Now, I think it's fine for tracking purposes, but I think where it's missing is just because you have a dashboard of your profit, doesn't mean you can actually action on that and make it more effective. What I mean by that is that there's a world where you can increase your ACoS by 20%, and you can unite that with pricing and increase your price by 20%, and you can double your contribution profit dollars. So to just bring this example home real quick, you have this is just an example. Let's just say you have a $25 really expensive garlic press. Well, that garlic press now goes to $30. That's a 20% increase in price. But now you have more margin to work with. You have more budget to work with. It means that you can actually increase your ACoS. And people are like, wait a minute, increase my ACoS? What? That's crazy. I always target a specific ACoS no matter what. And the idea is that this opens up opportunity. So now we increase ACoS by 20%. And look at what happens to your gross profit. Now, your landed cost remains the same. Nothing changed with your COGS. Your referral fee increases 20%, but your gross profit actually increases 60%, and your contribution profit dollars increase 100%. So your ROAS looks worse in this example, and your ACoS looks worse. And this is why I'm suggesting that we move away from these metrics that actually are very misleading and misguiding, and moving towards a metric like contribution profit or profit on ad spend, even TPOAS for total profit on ad spend.
All right, Ted, I'm going to follow up your acronyms here with my acronym. Let's go to number 8.
Cool. Let's do it.
COGS. Know thyself, guys. Know your COGS. I'm sure everyone here knows what COGS is, but just in case, cost of goods sold, right? So we're talking about profitability. Chad just spoke about profitability on the ads front, but it's really hard to get a hold of your overall business health without actually knowing your COGS, your cost of goods sold. And so we often get a lot of question about COGS. Let's see, Lori Bohm, you were talking about accounting and tax for Amazon. COGS, general ledger, and Finale, this is exactly where all of that is going. So what is COGS and what isn't COGS is a big question that we get. COGS is all about getting your products to your warehouse to be sold. It's not about having, it doesn't include OpEx, your operating expenses. It's a little different than landed costs as well. So COGS is everything that went into the cost to get it to your warehouse to be sold. Your staff to intake the item, obviously the cost of the product itself, taxes, fees, levies, everything at the port, all of that comes into play. Depending on if you're a manufacturer or just kind of purchasing, overseas, et cetera, there are some different costs there, production costs, et cetera. And then shipping costs, again, to your warehouse, to your central location. This does not mean shipping costs out to customers. It does not mean shipping costs to Amazon. It does not mean the outer boxes. It does mean product packaging, but not packaging to ship out, if we can just kind of draw a little delineation there. So again, why is this so important? It's because, we talk about these promotions, we talk about ad spend on top of it. It's hard to know what you're making a profit on top of if you don't have that COGS at the benchmark.
I love it. And these are all the things that go into COGS. It's part of the POAS analysis. So it's nice that you had this right after my slide. I like that we dropped to 8. That was a good idea.
Look at us. Look at us go.
All right, let's drop it back. Let's take it back now to 3. And so I think that pricing in general, right, is a major blind spot for, I think, brands, Amazon brands today that are private label. And uh, most people are actually just guessing their price. And typically they just find their nearest competitor, maybe undercut them by 25 cents, and they just leave it there. And so they don't actually observe trends, what's happening with their rank, what's happening with their velocity, and they're not spending the amount of time to shift uh, pricing from a guesswork to framework, meaning guesswork, meaning they're just guessing on their price and they're not building a substantial muscle around pricing where they're connecting the dots. In fact, they're not even collecting the dots so they can connect the dots. So they just slap a margin on it and they're done. And this approach is really disconnected from the value that's on the Amazon marketplace. And
And so check,
so, yeah, go ahead.
so that's a good question. So I hear you say this and I'm like, yeah, check, that makes sense. But for sellers who have like thousands of products, how often are they checking their pricing? Because it's a chore, like it's a task to stay on top of everything you just said. And it's important to do so, but how can sellers really manage this on the day-to-day?
Well, I think like most sellers, by the way, if you're when I say private label, you're D2C, and
Sure,
you
okay.
don't find that a lot of I haven't found, unless it's an aggregator. I mean, I have 550 private label products on my e-commerce business, Think Crucial, which is how I came up with this idea around prophecy because we weren't changing pricing. We were definitely getting squeezed from a profit perspective for our e-com business. So, but most people have in the hundreds, perhaps, of private label products. I haven't seen a whole lot of thousands unless it's an aggregator. But yeah, it's really, really hard. And that's why nobody does it. And the other thing is that they've been trained by Amazon to think that you're going to get suppressed in the buy box. And they couldn't be more dead wrong. You have to figure out what the sweet spot is. And there's actually a way for you to start pushing the threshold that Amazon holds you to. They sort of kind of understand what your ceiling is on your price to push that threshold up. And that's on a rolling average basis of roughly about 7 days. So they look at, as you start rolling the price up, they start taking the average and you can start incrementally changing that price. So there's just a lot of misinformation about pricing because most people are saying, well, just raise your price. Where inflation is here, just raise your price 10% or 20%. That's not actually accurate. Sometimes the optimal decision is to lower price. So what we found is just like a ton of brands are leaving hard-earned money on the table. And that's where prophecy comes in. And if you're going to do it yourself, like you're talking about, you just have to use a spreadsheet and start analyzing every single criteria that's required to make sure that you're making the right decision around pricing. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. We're great.
There's actually a spreadsheet I can pull up just to make this interactive. Like this is when I was turning around my e-commerce business. This is an example of what we were using. So every day I would go and find out what the BSR is, what happened the previous year, units sold, what happened, what was the previous price, the revenue, the ad spend, the ACoS, the COGS, everything. And conversion rate and sessions. And then on top of that, I started pulling in my competitors' prices and their BSR and their positioning on Amazon. And so you have to analyze all these different signals to find what's happening and what is the optimal decision as you're actually making these iterative changes. Super hard, super time consuming, waste of your time. Your time is more valuable than that.
Agreed. Bingo.
All right.
Let's go. All right, let's see. Let's go to, let's go to 6. Let's go back to the top.
All right, back to the top.
All right, guys. Growing pains means you're doing something right, but clearly you're not doing everything right. So you've gotten bigger, you have more orders, your team is growing perhaps, but you guys are kind of working harder. Great, those sales are coming in, but you may not be working better. And so this is where like automation really comes in. This is where Chad was talking about like staying on top of all those details. Before, if you slip a couple here and there, right, not a big deal. But as your business grows, every error just gets more and more impactful and can really start to hurt the business. And so what this really is talking about is how you can scale your business. So you got to $1 million. Great. That was really hard, right? Getting to 2 is going to be even harder. Yes. eventually economies of scale come in. But to really accelerate to 5, 20, 30, $40 million business, it's really where you need that support. So we've talked about the AI piece from Chad before. All these automations. Let's just even take getting the orders out the door. You're getting 50, 100 orders at the door, but now you're getting thousands of orders out the door on a weekly, on a monthly basis, what have you. And so being able to power up your team, we talked about that before too, right? Give them the tools they need to do things faster and more accurately. The accurate piece goes a really long way, right? We want to get the right orders out, we want to get the reviews coming in, and we want to get the customers coming back.
One of the things that I, just to piggyback on this thought, is that I think about efficiency a lot. And in the software world, there's this metric to understand efficiency, which is revenue per employee. Because like most people won't give you profit numbers, and a lot of these software companies are not profitable. So they use this metric of revenue per employee to understand, are you really shaking what your mama gave you? Like, are you really bringing to the table, is your team making an impact that you can see from the moon? And I think this is a really important question to be asking yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And you talk about revenue per employee. We also, on the warehouse operations side, a lot of sellers are concerned about like picks per person, right? Orders pushed per person, things like that. And that's where, if you don't, again, my slides talk about like ignorance isn't bliss. If you don't know what your pick rate is, then how do you optimize it? If you don't know how many, orders or, return rates, et cetera, how do you optimize it? So it's kind of this whole story that we're presenting on ignorance isn't bliss. You need to know the data. And once you have the data, you have to just keep pushing yourself, keep pushing your team to get better and better at those numbers.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Great point about measuring picks. And one of the things I used to do when I had my own warehouse was we used to incentivize. We like knew what the pick rate was, the average one, and then if whoever won at the end of the week would get some sort of prize, right? So we would make sure that we're incentivizing the behavior that we want to achieve, which is we want those warehouse employees to keep moving and to move as quickly as they possibly can to get every order out.
Exactly, exactly. So we see sellers who come in and they do a lot of things manually, between, order intake, putaways, picking, packing, shipping out, fulfillment, everything. And then eventually we kind of upgrade their business to use barcoding, because that's really where sellers can get the most impact, is by tracking all the data through the barcoding. And beyond that, even it's better for training. So your team is growing, have everyone do things exactly the same way through the barcode scanner.
Cool. And does Finale have a barcode scanner integrated?
We do have barcoding integrated. That's right. So we can like
Nice.
help out your warehouse. Our team does something where they will actually go to your location. They can train your team. They can set things up in your warehouse, let you know about your sub locations, put all your barcode label printed out on your warehouse shelves, create the walk paths, set them up, vertically, everything. So for sure.
So this is my untold truth number 4 is going back to this idea that, so pricing is the biggest lever you can pull in your business, and pricing touches all parts of your business. And that means that all parts of your business must touch pricing. And so I think this is really important that you see silos, right? You see an ad agency doing work for PPC. You see a CFO looking at the P&L and maybe advising on purchase order decisions, but you don't see a holistic view of essentially treating pricing as its own department. It is the most effective and the biggest growth lever you can be pulling in your business that is just not being pulled. And so to me, one of these ideas is to essentially treat pricing as a department, connect the dots internally in your team, have pricing be front and center as you're having team meetings to make sure that you're aligned around PPC, inventory, and price, because they all are interconnected and symbiotic in some way.
100%. And how are you seeing, how are folks testing their pricing strategies?
Well, I mean, on Amazon, most people don't test price. That's
It's
about
just
me. And
almost
sometimes they'll be like, hey, I have a deal. I'm about to run a deal, right? And a lot of times that deal price is just bringing a purchase forward. Like, for example, today I had a cart full of 50 items I was going to buy eventually anyway. And the deal just pulled the purchase forward, right? And they took a huge hit, right? A huge margin hit on the items that I actually bought, which means that it was a suboptimal decision, right? They're under monetizing their product. And so most people aren't actually testing price because they've been taught through, I don't know, the grapevine, they've been misinformed that pricing is going to have an effect. But the idea is like with Prophecy, for example, we've trained a model where we say, hey, we want to maximize profit, but we don't want to sacrifice your ranking position. How do we make sure that we're squeezing the most we possibly can from this order? Meaning that we're matching what the customer's willingness to buy is with the actual product itself. We're matching those two things together to make sure it's the most optimal price to unlock profit for your business without it actually affecting your ranking position. So the short answer to the question is like no one's doing what we're doing right now. And we're a first in the industry. So you can set up you can pick, hey, I want to maximize revenue, I want to maximize my velocity, or I want to maximize discoverability or profit. You set that up in our system, and literally our model goes and does the work for you.
I like that
And
you can
you're
do
just
different components. Yeah.
you can pick your strategy, but also you can put in your cost of goods sold, right? You put in your min price and your max price, so we're staying within those boundaries. It's a pretty amazing thing. It's literally
Yeah.
just like Uber, but for Amazon brands.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, I would say maybe, there's a lot of testing, I think more testing that goes on like the Shopify or the web store sellers, that front. And even, you talked about you price something really low and you lost money at it. There is like a loss leader strategy too, right? For these brands to come in and say like, well, I'm going to get everyone in with this one certain item that's going to sell like hotcakes. And once I have them, it's okay if we're losing the profit if we can expand the cart, right? Get
Yeah,
more items,
exactly. So a
get
great
more.
example of that is this, let's say it's a Zule garlic press. This is like the example I like to pick on Aaron from Zule. I don't want to click on his ad, but that's not an ad, so we can click on it now. So $8.99 for this gray one or silver one, but let's look at the red one. So $19.99, right? So this is the idea that this garlic press is a gateway drug to get you in the door. And then you're like, oh my God, but my favorite color is red. I need to have a red garlic press, right? And you're going to pay a fine to make that decision.
Exactly.
And so, we also do that too in our system. Like you can essentially create a product group, and you can create an anchoring. So you create a group of products, and then you say, okay, this is the hero SKU, and every SKU is going to move synchronously with the hero SKU as we go down or up. For example, it's going to move together.
Really smart, really smart. 22,000 ratings, can't be wrong.
4.6 is pretty good. I mean, it must be a good garlic press.
Solid.
What was the number you want to go to next year?
Oh yeah, great. Perfect. We're talking about, I just kind of left off my other note about the accuracy being really important, and this is what it comes down to. So all these things are costing you money, the refunds, the returns, restocking. We Chad kind of mentioned before, profitability per employee, things like that. This is where you're losing money and all of this. And so getting things, the right products in the right hands at the right time is really, really important for sellers to be able to get a hold of those small percentage margins, right? Selling on Amazon, selling in e-commerce in general is getting so expensive, and getting these pennies tightened is really important. So how do we do that? So there's a stat out there that says that these returns is costing generally between $10 and $20 per item. And so your cost to even buy it or sell it may be, less than that. But the time it takes for your team to process all of this is where sellers are losing out on cash. And so keep that $10 or $20 in your pocket per item, right? Get that return rate down by getting the accuracy up. And so this returns piece can result in like we've seen sellers reduce returns by like 40-50% just by getting a handle on right product, right time. And again, we just talked about those reviews, those 4.6, 22,000 reviews. You're definitely not going to get the buy box if you're having a really poor fulfillment experience, FA or otherwise.
One other thing I wanted to add on this one. So when I used to run my own e-com business with my own warehouse, we had implemented something called pay on use return labels. Have you heard of this?
Tell us more.
So most people, when they go make a refund, you call up the customer success individual and they're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to print you a shipping label, go and return it. But you pay for that return label. So
I
when
see.
you use a pay on use return label, you're only charged for the label if the courier scans the label. There's a lot of like return fraud out there where they
Yeah,
just never actually go and make it to the USPS office. So one idea is that you could essentially use this service called pay on use return labels, which can help with that.
really smart. Good tip.
Pro tip.
Chat's got a lot of
Uh,
them.
yeah, it's been a long time here. I think I already covered this, right? I talked about pricing as this overlooked lever of growth. Most people think that if they just spend more money with advertising, uh, they'll make more money. And so and I think it's because we're all guided to those things, right? We're guided to that behavior because Amazon is promoting it. They pay they work with agencies to promote the same ideology, and it's rampant in our space where nobody talks about prices, and it could be way more effective than ramping up your ad spend. So the idea here is just to really start thinking critically about price as a bigger part of your business and integrating that into other parts of the business. That's going to be I think that's my last truth.
Perfect. You can
Pauline?
go to, that would be same for finale's last one. We made it, guys. I've enjoyed the chat, by the way, on the side as we've been talking here too. So keep the chat going, keep the questions coming. I hope you guys appreciate my little play on words here. Demand reliable forecasting. So we all know about demand forecasting. There's no crystal ball, but how can we help sellers to avoid those high turnover rates, get rid of stockouts, things like that? Like Chad said before, the biggest item on the ledger is all about inventory, right? It's that is where all your costs are coming from. And so helping sellers to have lean inventory practices is really key because you want to be able to adapt. You want to be resilient when market trends change, when something happens, when your supplier, is late and you have to refigure things around and get a new supplier in and costs are going to be higher. You have to be able to have that money, cash on hand ready to be able to react in the marketplace. And so, whether it's diversifying your suppliers, having a couple backups on hand, again, looking at your inventory strategies, just-in-time inventory, you can do that as long as you're flexible to be able to accommodate those paths. We want to look at
There's a great quote that I read, which was that e-commerce businesses don't die of starvation, they die of indigestion.
Nice,
And I
exactly.
think that comes down to like what happened, right? I think people thought that we had this overstock period post-COVID where we thought buying habits were going to remain consistent, and they didn't. And that led to everyone having overstuffed warehouses. That's including Amazon. And then we all see what happened after that, where everyone's been shedding their inventory at a high pace and trying to be more focused on just-in-time inventory.
Yeah, exactly. And then even bring it back to this a little bit for profitability, like your carrying costs, right? Understand those carrying costs. What is its impact on your company, and can you get that down? Can you get your suppliers down? Can you get your shipping fees down? These are all ways to help get the cost down. But in terms of forecasting, it's really what do you need? What don't you need? And what can you get by with really good reorder points with your safety stock, knowing your lead time?
Yep, for sure. Also, I put into the chat if people have opportunities, things that they want to share, if they want us to dive deeper into any of these topics, we're happy to do that. Feel free to drop the comment into the chat. We certainly want this to be interactive if we can. Otherwise, we want to make sure that we're dropping enough value where you're like, hey, this was a really good use of my time today. We want to be respectful of your time, and just wanted to put that out there. So a few things here is like I wanted to make sure that we give out an offer, and my offer was this 50% discount for an entire year of Prophecy. You can use, it's like, I don't know if I see the actual QR code. That looks like a mistake, but essentially you can email me at chat@prophecy.com. That's CHAD@prophecy.com. If you have a question about something I mentioned today, or if you want to just reach out, or if you need some sort of support in the space, feel free to hit me up. Certainly, if you are interested in Prophecy to make you more money, we have a Prophecy guarantee, which is we guarantee 3 times your ROI that we're going to deliver or your money back. That's chad@prophecy.com, and just put into the subject line finale, and we'll make that happen. Pauline?
Yeah, cheers, thanks. Similarly, we have an offer for y'all. So get 15% off your first 3 months with Finale. Through for a couple more months, you can, when you speak to the Finale team member, you guys, we are a US-based company. Everyone you speak to, is from the States. We can help you out. We've got really great service support experts who know about selling on Amazon, selling on Shopify, how to handle a whole multi-channel business. So mention Prophecy 24. And even if you just want to check out what I was talking about before with all the like reporting dashboards and FBA statuses, just hop on a call, ask to see it. The team would be happy to show it to you. And then, yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn, Pauline Shiu at LinkedIn. Oh, yes, the ChatGPT.
Yes. So I didn't see that QR code. So if anybody wants the ChatGPT prompt collection, you stay to the end, just as you did. Just shoot me an email, chat@prophecy.com, and I'll make sure I get that to you right away. So just send me a one-liner saying GPT prompt arsenal, and I'll make sure I get that to you, chat@prophecy.com. Pauline, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you so much for being an amazing co-host with me and putting all these together and working with me to make this happen.
It's a great time. Thanks for having me. I love the conversation with you and everyone in the chat. That was great.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. Until next time.